Skal vi have mig op, vi står her. Hello everyone! Today we are welcoming to Tidbits with Champagne. Today it's 1 month since we started up with the first Tidbit. So we are very proud of the reach we have been having with the Tidbits. We have had more than 500 people attending, and on the list we can see that people have been listening in from Curacao, from Holland, Germany, Manila, and South Korea, and a lot of other countries all over the world. We are really thrilled that we have had this reach. So let's have a toast to all of you for being here with us, and thank you for welcoming our new concept. Cheers, Thea. Cheers, Kim.
Cheers.
Well, so not too much about the concept. 3 days a week at 12 o'clock. We are going live today with Kim Ege Møller, who is at MSL Publicis, and he is also a former director of communication from the Ship Owners Association. So he is a very well-known figure in the maritime business. So I had a talk with Kim recently, and we were talking about all these challenges there is now, where all your employees, they are sitting all around in their homes, like I do myself. How can we strengthen the internal through the internal communication? How can we strengthen the relation and have the team spirit back again, not being a lot of individuals working from home? So I asked him if he could talk a little bit about this today and give us some tips and tricks on internal communication. And happily, he said yes. So I'm happy to welcome Kim Ege Møller here in the Tidbit studio, and he's coming up now. So Kim, did you open your bottle?
Yeah, I am, and actually I'm taking a glass now, and I hope that everyone is because we are having to discuss something very important about champagne today. A man who are very famous champagne drinker that we are having to have in the discussion today. So cheers to everybody. So, and thank you very much for letting me in today and to use some time of and to use your lunch time here. And welcome to this tidbit. I'm looking forward to having a short chat about crisis communication with you. My name is Kim Ege Møller. I am the CEO of Publicis MSL, a communication agency whose specialties include the maritime industry. Okay, let's start by agreeing that we are living in a very strange times. We are in a crisis, and not merely one of those crises that affect most companies from time to time. This is a crisis that affected us all. Initially, it was a health crisis, during which we were worried about each other's health. Most companies had to come up with new communication systems to deal with people who were either infected or afraid to be infected or to getting infected. We had to create safety for all employees wherever they were. During this period, most people felt that they were getting closer, not only to each other, but also to their managers. Most managers and chief executives had a significantly more empathic and caring role to play. You probably experienced it yourself. But I think that you need to think about what this first phase of the crisis meant in terms of your community and your corporate culture. My guess is that most people experience these 5 things. Far more visible management, and that's important. And a significantly greater interest of internal communication. Basically, I'm working with internal communication every day, and in this time we could see that our emails and our video chats and our communication was with people was very interested in what's come out and in this short period. And also the informal communication culture was also changed. We had a stronger sense of community and a care for colleagues and business. A significantly increased interest of following guidelines and rules, especially in terms of health. And a striking interest in using new forms of work and new communication, especially when we started working from home. It did not take long for people to get used to Teams and Zooms as a part of their everyday lives. These 5 things here is important to remember when we are discussing internal communication, because these 5 things are things that you could use years or months to put into your company and to change the culture in the company. This has happened in just 1 month and maybe from day to day in most of all companies. And that's important to remember. During this first crisis, these first weeks of crisis, a lot of good companies launched projects to help allay the crisis. An air bridge with supplies to protective gear from China, the establishment of a task force of produce new production of hand sanitizer, breweries and distilleries who adapted their production. Now that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, such actions are invaluable because these companies did something altruistic, which we will remember. Hopefully, we will work similarly in the future. And these points are all important when we view at the second phase of the crisis, that phase that we are in now. There is a financial crisis, and now most of us are looking at our business, earnings, and future dealings. For many people, the care and the concern have turned into fear and nervousness about their own jobs and the survival of the companies they work for. Right now, many people are returning to their office. New rules of conduct have been introduced. Maybe some desks have been moved and there are new regulations in the canteen, but much is still the same, and yet not. Even though most people can now see the light at the end of the tunnel, fear still prevails. Most employees are concerned about the future and their jobs. Everyone is looking up. They are looking at the management and the executive boards, waiting for direction and waiting for answers. Most of you probably know the maritime term, the burning platform. It describes how we are at our most adaptable and open to change when we are standing on a burning platform in a life or death situation. This is the situation right now. Winston Churchill put it in a nutshell: never waste a good crisis. A crisis is not just something that causes pain, but also the perfect moment to launch the changes that we believe are necessary. Now is that time. It's not in a month. If you wait a month until the middle of the summer holidays, when crises are really waning, you will risk being accused of coming too late. You do not need to present an exact plan now, but you must make it known what you are up to and what your ideas about working is. That way you will convey 2 things. 1, that you are preparing your organization for changes, and 2, that we are in control of the situation and are ready to act. My advice to anyone who needs to communicate during this time of a crisis is abundance of empathy. Make active use of contemporary forms of media, meeting apps, social media, video, and etc. Clear leadership, not merely with email or video, but also just as importantly, by being present and not just at official meetings. Present thoughts on how to manage the company going forward. present considerations, not just finished solutions. Pave the way of discussion. Take advantage of the strong community to encourage employees and the organization to work constructively together. A number of companies, and this is something different, but it's important to have with us in this discussion. A number of companies have been subject to criticism and shitstorms. Initially, it was companies that were quick to adapt but neglected empathy. Then it was companies accused by using tax havens and avoiding tax. This is not the place to delve into these cases, but let me just remind you that these cases are just as unpleasant internally as externally. As an employee, it is sad and honor-winning to be sent home, but it gets even worse when your company is subjected to criticism, especially when the company does not respond. Some of these companies took more than a week to respond to the criticism. This was quite simply too late. Just ask the employees. If you open Berlingske or Børsen today, you will see a big thing from Lagkagehuset who are getting answers on the criticism of using tax havens. This is 10 days ago that the first story came out in TV2. 10 days where the employees in Lagkagehuset and everybody else was discussing, is Lagkagehuset doing something? Who is the owner? Why are their ownership placed in a tax haven and stuff like that? And maybe it's a problem in the press, but it's a much more and much larger problem internally. So when you have these crises and you have problems with the press and journalists and the front pages and the shitstorms, you have to react very, very fast, and that's important, especially for the internal communication. We only have 15 minutes, and just let me say something at the end here. Never waste a good crisis. That's a good thing to say, or never let a good crisis go to waste. Many people think that crises are tantamount to layoffs, job cuts, and losses, but it does not have to be that way. Bear in mind that when we talk about economy right now, we are talking about the biggest global crisis since World War II. What is amazing, though, is that we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. For a long time to come, everything we do will be compared to the time of crisis. So every step forward will represent progress, and in all probability will even succeed compared with the situation now. This represents a major of the opportunity. All that is needed is the right communication. So that was the words. So in the words of Churchill, never let a good crisis go to waste. Thank you. And cheers.
I'm coming up here. Cheers, Kim.
Thank you. Cheers.
I think I'm going to work fantastically this afternoon. It's always good to have a little bit of alcohol in your blood when you're working.
Exactly. And your communication is going much more easier when you have just some drops of champagne.
No problems. I was having a management leadership. How do you say? We were meeting up with the leadership college yesterday of MDC, and we were discussing how are we gonna make people re-entry, because right now we have 1 day a week we have to go back to the office, and they were like, but let's just tell the people, our employees, that they should be back to 2 days and so on. I said, but why? I think we should try to ask them, what is the ideal way of re-entering in the office, because then you get like bottom up because it might be we might be able to accommodate the wishes of the people, but in that way you take upside down, and you just say to people, now you have to do like this. But if you ask people what they'd like to, then it's easier also to explain them, well, you said so and so, but this is not possible, so now we're doing like this. If people feel heard, it's completely different to work with them. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think that a lot of people is doing that fail, that they say to the employees, oh, now the crisis is over, come back at the office and it's like the old days. And they don't ask, is that the right way to work in the future? Maybe we saw some good things under the crisis. It was also what I said in the first, that we have learned a lot of new way of working more effectively, having more good kind of meetings by sitting at home. So maybe we should find a new way of working at the office and also working at home, and find a new way of doing a more effectiveness and smart way of doing our jobs. So we don't have to be back at the office, all of us. Maybe it's okay to have some days where we are working effectively at home and using some of the tools that we have learned in this crisis. And then just to answer your question, is that it's important to have the discussion with the employees, to talk to them about what is the ideal way to work for you, and how can we make our jobs and our business in the best way for all of us.
I mean, you can always ask, and then you might say, well, it's not possible. One thing I think is interesting is that until now it has only been that you went to the office and you have had some office day, some working from home days. But now the picture has completely flipped off, and it means that we have seen that some people, they actually work much better from home rather than in the office. So it is. For me personally, it has been very difficult. It was very difficult in the beginning because I'm very extrovert, so I like to be surrounded by people. But there were other of my colleagues, they love to be working from home, and I hardly can't see them back in the office, to be honest. But how do you think it? What are you doing in your company, for example? Are you as a CEO for Publicis, MSL Publicis? How do you assure that this team spirit will still be in your team? How many employees do you have in your team?
We are about 70 people in Publicis, and I am a director for a part of them, about 10.
Yes.
And we have said to everybody that basically, if they are feeling that they are afraid of getting to the office, if they are feeling a little bit sick or nervousness, they are allowed to work home the whole year if they need to. And that's something we accept in all the Publicis companies all over the world. So, but we ask them to be at the office at 2 days, Monday and Fridays, because we also want to be together, and we also want to have team meetings in live. We want to have these, sessions where we are discussing ideas, and we are putting things on the up in the air, and it's easier to do that when you're sitting together. So we are trying to take the tools that we have learned in this crisis, so most people can work home, but also that we are meeting some days to having a good chat and having the feeling of each other.
I also think that to establish a relation with people, it's definitely an advantage to be meeting up in the physical, in IRL, in the real life, especially also first time meetings with customers and so on. They are performing best if you have been meeting up IRL rather than virtually. So
and the important thing here is that it's extremely important that in this period that the management is visible, that you can see the management, that they are at the office, or they are, if they are sitting home, that we could meet them at Teams or Zoom or what kind of tools you are using. It's important to, and not just to having mail conversation, but we have to see them like we're doing now in some digital way, that we could see their eyes and we could see their reactions when we are saying something to them. There's something very funny in this period and using these tools, and that is that now I can see how your home is, Henriette, and you can see that this is I'm sitting in my kitchen, and this is what I have on the wall on the kitchen. But in the last 2 months, we have been visiting a lot of our colleagues at home without thinking about it, and that's a way of letting people in our private room, and that's something, and that is something for us to learn each other, to know in a new way. It's the same when I have a colleague who was sick and was down with the corona, and they're interesting about the illness and what do you feel and how are you and what about your temperature, all that very personally stuff that you normally don't ask people, especially not when you're a manager. Was okay to say and was okay to have this discussion, because the private room was closed and was basically open for everyone.
So do you have some tips and tricks, some easy ones to bring on for leaders, how to be visible? I mean, do you have some good ideas on how to be visible, some creative ideas perhaps you did in your job, or you heard some of your clients or other managers that they have been doing during the crisis, that we can do now, not that we had to do?
Yeah, I think what's happened in the last 3 months is that before that, 90% of all internal communication was in some way of digital. It was a letter or email, or it is something on an app or in internal communication server, or it's a video thing. That's 90% of all internal communication. I think that what we have learned here is to use the internal communication tools, the digital tools, but we have put something in it. We have put something personally in it, and we have opened our private room for it. And if you want to be visible as a manager, and you want to be visible as a company with some values, you have to make them visible in new ways, and not just using these 3 tools. You have to make the palette much more greater. I have a manager in a company that we are working together with, who want to have just one-to-one talk with his employees, and he hate the Teams meetings. So he was going out and having a chat in the park, and just going around and half an hour and just talking, how are you, how are we, what's going on, and stuff like that. And that's a new way of, and he have never done that before. And I think his was a kind of guy who never done that, but it was necessary for him to meet his employees in a new way. And I'm quite sure that these employees love to have this half an hour in the park, just more relaxing and not that conform as it is at the office or in Teams or in an email.
So a walk and talk with the employees you can reach.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think also that it's a good idea for a manager to do something surprisingly, to do something that people do not expect. To do, like, if you always write an email to your employees, why not make a video and also make yourself imperfect? What do you think about that? To make you sårbar, as we say in Danish.
Yeah.
Because in this situation, we have all been very sårbar, and but for my own, I was really, the first month I was completely in shock, because I couldn't see any people. I was just inside my 4 rooms. I was paralyzed, but I was very open about it to my employees and to my colleagues. So because I thought that I didn't like to be, oh yes, I'm cool, I'm just doing everything like all the other days. But I think it's important to tell people that that you have this, that you're a person, you're not a machine. What do you think about that?
I think that basic communication, when we are discussing communication in basic, then it is when I have something that I want to say, I go to the man or the woman that I want to say this to, and I say it. That's the most easy way to communicate and to have a discussion. Every time we put something on it, when we do it in digital, when we are doing in an email, when we are sitting in an office or something else, we are putting something between you and me, and we are putting something that make it more difficult to get the message from A to B. But what we do when we are just having the meeting, going together and having the communication, we could see each other, we could hear each other, and we could ask the questions to each other. So when we want to do communication, it's always about to having that so directly as possible, because we are having communication to our feelings, to our eyes, to our ears, and you as more you can put us together, you more simple you can make the communication as better. So it's about, and what you do when you are asking, when you're telling about that you have also been checked for COVID-19 and stuff like that, then you are showing something about yourself. You are showing some of your feelings that you normally could see when you are having the normal chat. So you are making yourself vulnerable, and you are also making yourself trustworthy, because it's not all the glittered communication, all the spin. It's you, and it's directly, and then we trust you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Leadership is very much about trust. Yeah. So my last question to you, Kim, is a wake-up call I got from one of our other Tidbit speakers. It's Søren Rygaard, who said that one of the questions he'd like to ask to a coming manager in his career is, what kind of difference did you do during the COVID-19 crisis? How were you managing the situation? Because if you were just just told everybody that they could just relax and stay at home, but how did you help your employees to get over it? How did you handle it? Have you if I was a coming employee to your team, what would you tell me if I asked you in the interview, what did you do special for your employees or as a manager in this period?
I think that everybody who are working with communication these days should sit down and look at their table and make a list about all the changes that have come in the last 3 months. If you take my presentation, my slide number 4, I think it was, I was mentioning all the changes that have been, that we just have from the one day to the other. We had, I think it was this one.
Yeah.
These 5 changes have hit us all, and we have not think about it. But it's big things. It's a big thing that our management, our direction, and the CEO now are visible. In our company, we had a French CEO sitting in Paris, and every Sunday he sent out a video, and I promise you that he has done that, or he has sent out emails for years. But from when the crisis started, then there was someone who are looking at that video. Everybody was, because it was so important for us to know that he was on the top of the situation, and he knew what to do. And he said something to us that was important for the company, that made us feeling calm and see, okay, everything, we know what's going on, and we have a plan for it, and just relax. We are doing the best we can. Please help us. That's something that's amazing. And if you are asking a company about how to change our organization and our situation, these 5 things that have changed the last 3 months is huge, and it's very, very difficult things to change if we didn't have this crisis. So the crisis have made us have made a lot of very important things that we have to use also in the future.
With these words, Kim, I'm gonna make a last toast, because time is running out, and so is the bubbles.
So the bubbles is, so it is. But now it's going to be a very, very good day.
Yes, and a little bit of lunch afterwards will make a difference, I'm sure. So, Kim, thank you so much for today.
Thank you, all of you.
For your time with us. I just want to say thank you also to all our other listeners today, and tell you that this registration or this broadcast will be available on this crowdcast.io/Kim Møller. And tomorrow you will find next week's tidbits. We will send them out, and Thea, my colleague, she just wrote in the chat where you can sign up for invitations to upcoming tidbits. We will be talking about how to get your money from who went bankrupt during this crisis. And we will be talking about carbon capitalization and circular economy next week. So cheers, and have a wonderful day.